this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's a smackdown between two of the highest end 13.3-inch Ultrabooks on the market running Intel Haswell CPUs. Here we have the Samsung ATIV Book 9 Plus, pretty in metal, and here we have the Asus Zenbook UX301, pretty in Gorilla Glass 3. And we're going to smack them down now. Either way, you kind of have to like the color blue. Though Samsung calls their ATIV Book 9 Plus finish mineral ash black, it's really got a kind of slightly blue color to it. Matte, black, metal everywhere. Gorgeous. Contrasting sides that kind of make it look thinner because, well, it tapers, so it really it brings to light how slim it can look, even though it's not as slim as just the edges you see here. The sculpted sides we always like. Look, they're sheared off, just showing silver metal over here. Unique sculpted design. I have to say this is one of the most unique looking 13.3-inch Ultrabooks on the market. There is nothing else that looks like this. So, style points for the Samsung ATIV Book 9 Plus. But, we have the new kid on the block. Announced several months ago, finally hitting the market. Now we have the Asus Zenbook UX301. This is the LA configuration. DH71 for those of you who track this. Gorilla Glass 3. It's a nice deep blue. Very pretty. The Asus logo lights up when the laptop is powered on. Very good looking machine, also very thin. Typical Zenbook look, a little bit MacBook Air inspired, shall we say. Blue everywhere. Perfect fit and finish here too. The Zenbook line has always been a high-end line, so we're not wanting for quality here. Bottom is good old-fashioned, safe and sturdy metal. So either way, you're getting a nice machine. It depends on which looks you prefer, and it depends how you feel about Gorilla Glass 3, which is very pretty. It's supposed to be shatter-resistant, scratch-resistant. Asus has a video of them taking a knife and a fork and a screwdriver and scissors to it, and it does just fine, versus the metal. Now, one thing that can happen is if something smashes into the lid, I'm sure it would probably crack. I am not going to test that, but it is a possibility, and some of you may worry about that. But something like our Samsung, well, it's metal. You may be able to scratch this, but it's not going to crack. Now, underneath the Asus, there is metal underneath the glass, so you're not stuck with a totally broken notebook, just one that's not as pretty should that happen. And it may never happen. We've seen a couple of different Gorilla Glass laptops on the market, and they have not particularly suffered ugly demises. In terms of ports, mostly similar here. With our Samsung, we have USB 3.0 port here. There's our micro HDMI port, proprietary Ethernet port. Dongle is included. Nice because it doesn't use up one of your USB ports. On the other side, and because this is so thin, that's why we have a lot of these micro and custom ports. We have micro VGA dongle not included, 3.5mm audio in your second USB 3.0 port. On our Asus, we have full-size SD card slot. There is an SD card slot on our friend, the Samsung, and it is underneath, interestingly, under a little door here. Card will stick about halfway out on either one of these. Back to our Asus, though. SD card slot right here, USB 3.0 port, mini display port. Nice to have that for those of you who have higher resolution monitors and you don't want to use HDMI. On this side, another USB 3.0 port. Since they're all 3.0, they didn't bother color coding them. There's our micro HDMI right there and our headphone jack. So with this one you get two display out options. With the Samsung, sure you do if you use that proprietary VGA adapter. Honestly, I would just use an HDMI to VGA adapter, but you could drive a VGA monitor and a HDMI. With this, you can drive an HDMI and a DisplayPort. Both of these have metal bottoms. You could remove them. Torque screws holding down our Asus bottom right here, and on the Samsung, we have teeny weeny little Phillips head #1 screws. Not too hard to open up either of these. With the Asus, it catches a little along the hinge barrel, but don't worry, you're not going to break it if you take it off. Not a lot of upgradability. For both of these machines, RAM is soldered on board. They both use SSD drives. Now, the Samsung uses a more standard mSATA SSD drive, a little harder, easier to find rather, aftermarket. Both have socketed wireless cards. The Asus uses M2 form factor. It actually has two SSDs in a RAID configuration there, so a little bit harder for those of you who want to upgrade happily. Asus offers this with 128, 256, and 512 gigs of total storage, so there's something for everybody there. Now, in terms of internals, we get Intel Wi-Fi on both of these dual band, and that's a good thing. For the Samsung, it's 802.11bgn, the 7260. We have Wi-Fi 802.11 and AC as well on the Asus. Both of them perform well, and they're very reliable. After getting those Windows 8 updates that updated the Wi-Fi drivers for both of these, we didn't have any problems. But for those of you who like AC and don't want to crack open the machine to switch a wireless adapter, that could be a selling point. They both have Bluetooth 4.0. So here's where the differences really begin to emerge, and that's with the internals. Now, granted, this all gets a little bit murky here because Samsung doesn't make as many PCs, overall laptops, nor do they sell in as big a volume as does Asus, who is around the 4th or the 5th largest PC maker, depending on whose statistics you look at. So, with Asus, you have different models that can meet different needs. For example, there's a UX302 LA as well with a 1080p display, more upgradable internals. There's the UX31 LA, also a Zenbook, several different models. With Samsung, they have to try to meet everybody's needs with the Samsung ATIV 9 series because, well, that's their one and only high end. There's the ATIV 7, but that hasn't been updated from Ivy Bridge. You get the idea. Anyway, Samsung, for the ATIV 9 Plus, $1399 gets you the base model, your usual Core i5-4200U, clocked at 1.6 gigahertz, 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM. Again, not upgradable. These have soldered on RAM. What you buy is what you're going to live with. And 128 gig SSD. The Asus, since the Zenbook UX301, formerly known as the Zenbook Infinity, was meant to be the very top, the apex of the 13.3-inch Ultrabook line. It starts with mostly higher-end stuff. Now, there is one configuration that you might find that's priced at $1699 to $1799. That has the same Core i5-4200U, but it has a 256 gig SSD in RAID 0 for greater speeds and 8 gigs of RAM, so they're not exactly comparable. With the Samsung, the closest you get is the next step up that finally started shipping, which is the Core i7-4500U, just a little bit faster there. The CPU is not so significant. 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gig SSD, also $1799. But the model that we're looking at with the Asus is the more interesting, the one that Asus I think really wants to promote. And this has some more special internals in it, faster, much faster. So for those of you who need performance, the Asus is really going to pull ahead for your buying choice. 2.8 gigahertz Intel Core i7-4558U. That is a 28 watt CPU versus the 15 watt standard Ultrabook CPUs in the Samsung. So about 20% more performance there. It also has Intel Iris 5100 graphics rather than the usual Intel HD 4400 graphics used in all of the ATIV 9 Pluses. So for horsepower, it's an easy winner for the Asus. Now that configuration is going to cost you $1,900 to $1,999, so you're going to pay about $200 extra for that additional boost. Inside of these guys, best of the best, once again, very high resolution displays. At 13.3 inches, honestly, they have an insane number of pixels. I wouldn't say that going from the Sharp IGZO panel here with 2560 by 1440 resolution to the Samsung made 3200 by 1800 pixel display really is going to make that much of a difference to you. It's already almost too many pixels for a 13.3 inch, where 1920 by 1080 has become the standard for the mid to high end machines. So raving pixel density on either of these. I find with the Samsung, I run at 200% for display zoom in Windows settings, and that makes it equivalent to 1600 by 900 for what you can see on screen, and I do 150% on the Asus with the Sharp IGZO display. The Sharp IGZO or IGZO display, much has been made of that, and the neat thing about it is brighter while using less power. So as you can see, this is a brighter display. It's noticeably brighter, honestly. They're both glossy displays. They do have to combat glare, but in terms of numerics, we have about 80 nits more brightness on our Asus. You'll see the difference. Out of the box, the color calibration on the Asus was absolutely abysmal. I don't know what they did there. Now, Asus has their splendid video where you can choose through several different color profiles. None of them are anything like calibrated. Both of these have been calibrated, which is why they look so similar now, using our Spider 4 Pro colorimeter to calibrate them. The Asus panel so far tops the charts among the best Ultrabooks in terms of sRGB and Adobe RGB color representation, wide color gamut. Now, it's a pretty close race, but we've got 98% of sRGB and 79% of Adobe RGB on our Asus. Now, our Samsung is also pretty good. We got 95% of sRGB and 75% of Adobe RGB, so pretty close. Now our Samsung panel here, I used in the Yoga 2 Pro and this Samsung ATIV Book 9 Plus when it came out, big to do about the fact that yellows look kind of mustardy, and that had to do with the fact that this is not a very powerful display, so they were running it not driving the yellows real high to try not to consume too much power. Lenovo fixed that in the Yoga 2 Pro with a firmware update that kind of improves things. And Samsung quietly released a profile color fix that would bring back your yellows. And that's only a problem when it's unplugged from power. When you plug it in, all the yellows look great. So we're just talking unplugged here. Anyway, I've been running that fix, and the yellows actually look quite nice. SpongeBob looks just like SpongeBob. The Best Buy logo looks the proper color yellow. So we're looking pretty close on the yellows. Still a slight advantage to the sharp panel used in the Asus. That does bring down your battery life a bit. I lost about, on average, a half an hour of battery life, which gets to another point. Here we have the usual Intel ULV CPU that's used in Ultrabooks. Here we have something more powerful, 28 watts versus 15 watts. Both have about the same size battery that's sealed inside. I find I get about 6.5 hours out of the Asus and about 7 hours out of the Samsung, putting them on equivalent brightness settings. That is not significant enough a difference that I would make my buying decision based on that. Half an hour, you know. And you can also do things, since the Asus is so, relatively speaking, for a 13-inch Ultrabook, gosh darn powerful, you can run that on a reduced energy power profile if you're just doing word processing and web browsing and extend your battery run times. That's just using the equivalent of the balanced power profile in both of these guys. They both have backlit keyboards. They both have large glass trackpads, and they both have very good trackpads. They're equally as good, honestly, and they're some of the better ones on the market. With the Samsung, we have a metal wrist rest. We have metal everything. With the Asus, though it might not look like it, this is what they call ceramicized Gorilla Glass 3. It feels really nice and silky, sort of like a trackpad surface. Again, it's your preference. Visually, you can't really tell that it's glass, but it feels kind of nice. When it comes to keyboards, I think that the Samsung is a little bit nicer looking. They really did a job with their chiclet style sculpted keyboard, and it has the neatest light blue pleasing backlighting. But key travel with Samsung, they're notorious for that. It's very short. It's kind of punishing on your fingertips and your knuckle joints. I find that I type pretty well despite that, but not as well as I type on the Asus, which may not look quite as pretty and ritzy, but oh, it does a nice job when it comes to typing. Both have backlighting, as you can see here. The Asus is on at the moment. Standard white backlighting on the Asus. So I give the typing edge certainly to the Asus. I make fewer mistakes with that one. When it comes to speakers, well, the Samsung has some of the best speakers on the market. 2-watt speakers on both of these guys, but more bass, more rich sounding on the Samsung. They're both pretty loud as Ultrabooks go, no problem there, but more full sounding on the Samsung. For those of you who really like to tilt your notebook back, the Samsung, like some Lenovo's, does the flat thing. I don't know if you find a use for that. Maybe you do, but you can go that far back if you need to. With our Asus, we can go this far back, which is pretty darn far back, but there's a lip that rolls over here. It's curved, so it doesn't poke your legs or anything like that, but so that's as far back as we can go. For those of you who crave flat for whatever reason, keep that in mind. When it comes to bloatware, they each have their share. Neither of these companies is innocent. We have things like Music Maker Jam, Wild, Tangent Games, and some of these are just web shortcuts. Here we have Bitcasa, and Samsung likes to make a whole bunch of S programs. Just like they have S apps for Samsung Galaxy phones, we have S Photo Studio, for example. Those things are loaded here. Samsung SideSync to try to make it easier to sync with your Samsung phone. All that stuff, you can remove it. It's not the end of the world. They're not that laden with bloatware that I would complain about either of them too much. Now, when it comes to gaming, these can handle casual games fine, less demanding games. Civ 5 plays fine, even at full HD resolution. If you want to play more challenging games like Skyrim that we have running over here, even a little Battlefield 4 at low settings and lower resolutions, mind you, if you watch our gaming demo video of the Asus, we played BioShock Infinite even, you want the Asus. It has the Intel Iris 5100 graphics and that significantly faster CPU. So anything short of something with dedicated graphics. Now, Asus does make the Asus Zenbook UX301 LG, which really I haven't seen for sale in this country yet. That has low-end dedicated graphics. Other than that, something with 5100 graphics, and there are very few in the 13-inch class, would be a good choice. The Asus is going to be the winner for more demanding games. Again, for casual games and older games, you do find it on the Samsung as well. When it comes to fan, right now we've got this game running and you probably can't hear the fan over my voice at all because it uses twin fan cooling and it's quite cool. Does not get too hot to the touch, does not get roaringly loud. Of course, if you're playing a game like Skyrim, the fan will come on, you will hear it, but it's not obnoxious. Same thing is true of the Samsung. They also use a twin fan cooling design, which might seem overkill, but it's part of that high-end shtick that you're going to get here with a higher end machine. It just makes for more efficient, quieter cooling. Instead of one fan going, you have just that low, quiet hum if and when the fan ever needs to come on. With both of these, if you're doing something like word processing, social networking, even streaming HD video, you're not going to hear the fans. So who are these laptops for? Both of these touchscreen laptops, by the way, with 10 points of multi-touch. Well, they're obviously for the more well-heeled buyer, or for those of you who want something high-end and don't upgrade very often. So what you get, you want it to be the best that you can get at the time. Neither of them is cheap. Again, the Samsung goes from $1,400 up to $1,800. The Asus is around $1,600, $1,700, all the way up to $2,200 if you want a 512 gig SSD. The version we have here is around $1,900 to $1,999. So both of these are for those of you who really want to spend that kind of money on a machine and you want the best that you can get in an Ultrabook in terms of design, fit and finish, materials, good backlit keyboards, good wireless with our dual band Intel Wi-Fi, better than HD displays here on both of these machines. You're going to get more pixels and you know what to do with, especially given how Windows 8 and 8.1 handles scaling. It does not a bad job, but some applications don't follow suit so well. In terms of which one is better for you, hopefully you know a little bit more. I would say for those of you who need the horsepower, the Asus is going to be the more attractive one, especially for those of you who don't upgrade very often, so the CPU and GPU won't be dated quite as quickly. And for those of you who say, oh my god, glass, what a pain in the neck, I'm just going to worry about it, then the Samsung, thin, robust, super strong. Neither of these have keyboard flex, neither of them has chassis flex. There is a bit of display panel flex on the Asus, there is none on the Samsung. In either case, you're getting one of the nicest Ultrabooks on the market in terms of fit, finish, styling, and components. So that's the Samsung ATIV 9 versus the Asus Zenbook UX301, the mid-high-end kind of configuration one right here. And as you can see, the prices are high for both of these. You're getting really nice machines, best fit and finish, some of the nicest internals, super high resolution displays. Either way you go. And in the end, it's going to come down to how much CPU performance do you need. If you need a lot, it's going to be the Asus. Versus, how do you feel about glass versus durable metal on the lids? Samsung, you're not going to get too nervous. There's no glass involved. Either way, you're getting a nice machine. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of both of these products, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.